KP Halacha Tes. Hilchos Chametz Pesach. There's a din that the somebody who's a distant from Yerushalayim doesn't have to come to bring the first Pesach Rishon. Someone who there was a distance between him and Yerushalayim on the 14th when the sun came up. We'll go down below. Chamisha mil or yoser, either 15 mil or more. This is called a distance. He doesn't have to come and make. He's not obligated. We find some Psochim 93b. Amma Ula. Now the Medin Yerushalayim Chamisha mil. From Medin to Yerushalayim is 15 mil, and Ula goes in the shiur of Rabbi Yochanan that a person can go from the morning until Tzeitzak 10 pasois, which is 40 mil. And therefore Rashi says that's an average person. And so you have 12 hours. Therefore, that in 10 pasois there's 40 mil. From Alois Shach until Netzach Hama, that means from the morning star till 72 minutes later, you go 5 mil. And at night, from Shkizach Hama till Tzeitzak you go another 5 mil. What's left over is 30 mil during the day. If you divide that in half, you come to 15 mil. The Gemara says another reason. That it depends whether you can make it. In other words, you can only shech the Korban Pesach, slaughter the Korban Pesach between noon and night. And therefore you only have 6 hours, and therefore you can only go 15 mil. This is the opinion that if you can't make it at night to eat the Korban Pesach, Rashi explains that that's further. He's found in the midday that he can't come into Yerushalayim all night. Rashi adds, eating Pesach is kol halayla. Chomim said you can only eat it till Chatzos according to Rabbi Akiva, as is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. According to Rabbi Eliezer, in Min HaTorah it's only till Chatzos. Paskins like Ula, therefore the shiur of the Rechoik is 15 mil, which is from the morning till Chatzos Hayoim. Now note that Rambam is the only Rishon who counts from morning till afternoon. Most of the Rishonim count if you can make it sometime between noon and night. Because the Mishnah also explains that from the Gemara would seem that the 15 mil is from the morning till Chatzos. But Rashi writes, Ula says, who can't come in b'shah shchita, which is from the afternoon till at night. Another Shlomo on the Mishnah questions the Rambam. Why do you only measure till Chatzos? You can shech even after Chatzos too, till at night. Another Chinuch explains, according to the Rambam, it's Gzeras HaKosev. It's an edict of the Torah that you only can do it till the time of shchita. In other words, the obligation has to fall upon you at the time of when you can first shecht it. And as we'll see, if the obligation falls on you after that, there are differences. Shagas Arya explains, like the Mechus Chinuch, he says, according to the Rambam, the din of somebody who couldn't make it to the shchita and he didn't make a Pesach is different from somebody who was in Derech HaChoika. So there's a cause of the Derech HaChoika, when you can't come to Yerushalayim at the beginning, that's a Gzeras HaKosev. But whereas Oinus is a different situation. Rashi does not make a differentiation between Derech HaChoika to Oinus. Like the Rae Gann Halacha Bezer will see that Derech HaChoika is like Oinus, whatever an Oinus has to do, and even though it will come after Chatzos, and you reckon somebody who can count till the time that you can still slaughter. Shagas Arya also adds that Rashi and Rambam disagreeing when is the obligation of Korban Pesach fall on a person. Rashi says it's only from Chatzos, from midday. The Rambam says it's from morning. Therefore, Shagas Arya questions the Rambam, if the chiv is from the beginning of the day, why from Netz? Why not from Alois HaShachar? Why don't you count from Alois HaShachar? According to Rashi, you can't say before Chatzos, because before Chatzos And you can't shecht at night because there's a korban can't be shechted after night down, sunset. But Alois Shachar is the day, as we find we shech the korban Tomid, but when they see the morning star. In the Sefer Shishal Ladova questions, it would seem that the words of Ula, that a person can go from Netzachama until Ashkia, is 30 mil, was pushed off, and the person can go, you can 32 mil, because the Gemara proves you can always a Shachal Netzachama, and also from sunset till Teisakechom till the stars, you can go 4 mil, not 5. Therefore, because it's 18 minutes a mil, 18 times 2 is 16, is 36, and times 2 again is 72 minutes. So therefore, it comes out in half an hour. In half a day, he should go 16 mil. Why does the Rambam write 15 mil? A mil is approximately a mile, by the way. And he answers that the difference between Moedian to the wall of the Azorah is actually 16 mil. Now Rambam, when he counts 15 mil, and he answers that it's 16 mil. And the Rambam, when he makes the 15 mil, he goes to the wall of Yerushalayim. And from there's another mil till the Azorah. He disagrees with the Rishash that writes the Rambam means 15 mil till the walls of the Azorah. The Bir Agro, he proves from Psachim 93a, like those poskim, those codifiers who say that the day is counted from Netzachama to Shkia Sachama. This is the difference regarding when Kriya Shema is a third of the day. How do you reckon a third of the day or a quarter of the day? From sun up till sunset, or from morning star till the stars come out. If it was between him and Yerushalayim, or the Beis Hamikdash, less than this amount, it's not called distance. He can reach Yerushalayim by Chatzos, even walking at a sedate pace. If he went and he didn't get there because there was a traffic jam of the animals in those days, right? And he's considered an onus. The difference will be, according to the Rambam, that even if the second korban he didn't bring his mazid intentionally, he's bought it from chorus. But onus, he's chayav chorus. And according to the Rambam, somebody whose animals kept the traffic on the highways kept them from coming is only potter from cars if he brings on the Pesach Sheni. But if he didn't bring on the Sheni, out of willfully he's chayav cars. Aiva disagrees. Amar Avram, if he went and he didn't get there, ain't a type there Gemara. This is not the way the Gemara learns it, because in the Gemara it's written differently from what the Rambam writes here. Because the Mishnah explains the question of the rival. In Psachim 94a, it says, if he was standing within Moedian, within the area of Moedian, which is the distance, and he cannot get in because of camels and wagons, which impede his progress, I might think he's not obligated. The Posuk says the only one who's potter is if he wasn't in the way, and this one person is close enough to get there. Rashi explains that the question is, Yochel lo yeh chayiv. I might think that he's not liable for chorus. The answer is he's chayiv, because he should have left his wagons or gone alone, and he should have made sure he could get there. And therefore, the Rambam should say that if Malim or Kronis impede his way, he's chayav chorus for the first one. So the Gesem Mishnah explains that Rambam understood the Brisa differently. I might think that if he's impeded by the camels, he should not be chayav chorus, even though he didn't intentionally do the second one, and he should be like somebody who's b'derech hachoyger, he's potter chorus. even when he intentionally didn't bring the second Pesach, I would say, so somebody who was impeded in the way is considered as if he's distant, and therefore even if he didn't bring the second one intentionally, he'd be part of chorus. Therefore, it says B'derech lo yhoya, and therefore somebody who was impeded by camels is not called Derech HaChoyke. He's not included in the Gzeras HaKosov of Derech HaChoyke, because it's not because of the distance, because of the oinus, the unexpected obstacles of the wagons, and therefore it's like any other onus who has to bring in Pesach Sheni, and if he doesn't, he's chayav chorus. The Marie Kurkis also explains it in this way, and he adds, Rambam is, according to Shita, he makes a difference between Mishoy B'derech HaChoyke and didn't do the Sheni V'Mezid. So somebody who was an onus, if he didn't do the second V'Mezid, he's chayav chorus. Therefore, he explains that way the Gemara. But the Rav is according to Shita in Halacha Beis. He says there's no difference between Mishoy B'derech HaChoyke to show you your oinus, that is chayav chorus, that all of them are chayav chorus al narration. And therefore the Rav explains the Kushas of Gemara that he should be chayav chorus on the Rishon, like Rashi says. Now, the Rambam says, he was in Yerushalayim. Now he's talking about onus. He was sick. He couldn't walk. He couldn't get there till after the time of the Korban. He's an onus. According to the Rambam. So guess the Mishnah says this is Yerushalmi Sochim. If he was within the area between Yerushalayim to Medin, it's not called Derech HaChoyke. But he couldn't walk because he sprained his ankle. So I might think he's chayav chorus. So it says v'choda. He's not chayav chorus because he was unintentional. He's nenas. So I guess the Mishnah says that the Rambam learned from the Yerushalmi that he should be chayav chorus even if it was shoygi v'lo yikr b'sheni. Like a mezid who we learned, if he intentionally didn't bring the first Pesach, then even if he brought on the second one, he's chayav. Even if he's shoyging in the second one, he's chayav chorus. And only if he intentionally didn't bring the first one, is he chayav chorus on a shoyging on the second one. I might think this one who didn't intentionally not bring the korban rishon, but he couldn't make it, and therefore he should have a din like everybody of Yerushalayim. It was honors league of his reservation that if he didn't bring Misheni and shoygig he's ported mikoros, aval lo hikri v'mezid he's chayav koros. That's why it says v'chodal. If he did v'mezid he's chayav koros. It says Misha Yechovush chutz lochem is Yerushalayim. Somebody who was incarcerated in a jail outside the cities of Yerushalayim, and they told him, for the night of Passover, we're going to let you go out. You can slaughter for him. In other words, and then when he comes out at night, he can eat. This is only if he was in a Jewish jail at the time when the Chacham were in charge. It's found in Mishnah that if they promised him to go out, or the sick and the elderly, that they could eat a kazayas, you shecht for them, but not by themselves, only as part of a chabura. The Gemara says, but if he was in jail by non-Jews, then you have to be sure he's going to leave. And if they saw it for him and he went out, but if he couldn't go out, he does not have to bring a Pesach Sheni, because the first one was slaughtered for him even though he didn't eat it. This is in the Gemara. You can even slaughter for himself without others, because once they promised him, for sure they're going to let him go out. But because Sheres Yisrael Yasu Avlo, Lo Yidavu Kozov. Shares Yisrael does not speak falsely. The Gemara Lechem Mishnah questions: how can Aaron paskin that if he was by Yisrael, you shecht for him, it would seem that he makes Pesach with a chabur, and they shecht for him, but not by himself, and by akum, even by chabur you don't slaughter for him. And the Gemara, it would seem that if he's chovush b'dei Yisrael, you can do by himself, and by b'dei akum, you can't slaughter by himself, but with a chabur you may do so. And the Rambam says that you should not shecht for him with a chabur. Taisus writes in Yerushalmi, we established that this is according to Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yochanan, that when the Jews have him in jail, that's when you can shecht, slaughter on his behalf. But by goyim, you don't even shecht with others, because we don't believe the goyim. That's the difference. That's exactly in direct contradiction to the Bavli. So the Rambam is passing like the Yerushalmi, and the Lechem Mishnah says how the Rambam. The rule is usually that Bavli and Yerushalmi passing like the Bavli. Therefore, the Lechem Mishnah says you have to say that the lashon you slaughter for him by Yisrael. We find the Bavli means Elohim alone. But if he's by Goyim, you can slaughter for him only with a group. The Mishnah Melech also explains like the Lechem Mishnah, and he adds proof to this, that as the Rambam would be like the Yerushalmi, you should have said, even in the Beis Asurim of Yisrael, you don't shecht for him himself, because that's the text in the Yerushalmi. Rae Gann says, if somebody's in a jail, the Rambam didn't make a difference between whether it's for him himself to slaughter or within a group, because if he's by a Jew, both places you can slaughter for him, and if he is held by goyim, even with a chabur you don't shecht, because they speak falsely. Tzlachim Sochim explains that the Rambam is like the Yerushalmi, that by a Jew you can slaughter for him only with a group, but not if it's his own korban. By a goyim, even in a group, you don't not slaughter for him. And he relies on the Yerushalmi, not on the Bavli, because the Divrei Bavli are according to the Mount Yom, who says you can slaughter the Korban Pesach for the individual. And the Rambam is of the opinion, he codifies the halacha that you don't slaughter a Korban Pesach for the individual, as we learned in Perek Beis, halacha Beis. B'shas Teshuvos Amudei Oyer, he questions on the tzlach, because even when there are a few Jews in the jail of a goy, you don't slaughter for them, even though they're not individuals. And if it has to do with an individual, then Rambam should have pointed out that in such a situation you could do for the group. Therefore, the Baal Amudi Oil says the question is, Shares Yisrael will not say something that's not true, and therefore we know for sure he's coming out. When a goy tells you he's coming out, we're not sure. Amudi Oil says the Rambam is of the opinion that if Jews put him in, have him in jail, you don't shecht for him alone, because we're not sure by Jews either if they'll come out. But if of a goy, for sure he won't come out. You shouldn't shecht for him even if there's a group. Oinen is someone who hasn't buried a family member that he's obligated to mourn, and they slaughtered for him the Pesach Rishon. And if he became Tomei, he's Poto mi Pesach Sheni. Oinen is one of his relatives died, and he has to mourn him. They didn't bury him. And he can't eat kochim in a Torah that day. Now he can. We'll see in Perek Vav Tes that Aninas of Lilo, not to be able to eat kochim at night, is only midrabanan. Therefore, Oinen can eat from the Pesach. It was brought from in the afternoon, because the Chachamim did not say that you can't eat kochim when there's an obligation to eat the Mokim Chorus. Cholan Zokin, the Rambam says that they could eat the Kazayas, Sheshoktu Alein V'acha Shenizrek Adom Nitmu V'meis, that they were slaughtered for them, and then after the dam was sprayed, they become Tomei Meis. They can't eat now because they're Tomei Meis. Because they have fulfilled their obligation. This source is found in the Mishnah Sochem 91a. If a wall fell on someone and somebody's trying to save, maybe still alive, he's digging out. They can eat a kezayis, you shech for them, and all of them you don't shech by themselves, because maybe it'll turn out that they can't eat a kezayis, so you have to have the korban eaten, and or only if they are together with a group, maybe they'll cause the Pesach not to be eaten at all. Now Rashi explains, why don't you shech for each one? Maybe the oin will become tomei. Maybe the one who's seeking out the live person under the pile of stones will find out that he's dead and become tomei from being mahil, being a tent over the dead person or touching him. Maybe the person in jail will not go out, and by a sick person, elderly, maybe they'll become weaker and they will not be able to eat a gezayis. The Rambam in Peirush HaMeir explains that you don't shecht on all of them to begin with, because we're afraid maybe they won't be able to eat a kezayis. Somebody who is in the category of before the burial and is a mourner because of his great pain, he cannot eat a kezayis, and therefore the Pesach will be left over. The Mishnah concludes, therefore, if they became apostle, they don't have to make Pesach Sheni, since at the time of the shlit and zrikas Adam, they could have eaten from the korban Pesach kezayis, and they were done with a group. And even though afterwards they became apostle, they're part of a Pesach Sheni, except from the person who was digging to save somebody from this wall that fell on him, because he may have been Tomei at the time of the slaughtering of the Pesach, and he was disqualified from being a partner in the group that brought the Pesach. And we finished Perek Hey. Siyata D'Shmaya.